Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for the St. Louis Rams at the Arizona Cardinals in their Week 4 matchup, played October 4th, 2015. We're going to go over the scores, and we're going to go over the stats, and we're going to give our breakdown and analysis. We'll start off in the first quarter. Just less than 2 minutes in, Tavon Austin gets a 12-yard touchdown pass from Nick Foles, and with the extra point by Zerline, it was 7-0 Rams over the Cardinals. Of course, the Cardinals had that fumble, and that's how the Rams ended up getting that touchdown. After the fumble, they ended up having to just go 17 yards to get into the end zone. So then later in the first quarter, with still about 4 minutes left, Chandler Catanzaro kicked a 21-yard field goal to put the first points on the scoreboard for the Cards, and it was now a 4-point lead for the Rams with the score 7-3 St. Louis over Arizona. So that was the score after one quarter of play. Then in the second quarter, Catanzaro hit another field goal, this one a 27-yarder, with a little less than 11 minutes left before halftime, and it was now a 1-point game with the score St. Louis 7, Arizona 6. But then with just over 3 minutes left in the second quarter, Greg Zerline hit a 30-yard field goal, and it was now a 4-point lead for the Rams with the score St. Louis 10, Arizona 6. But then with a little over a minute left before halftime, Catanzaro hit his third field goal of the game, a 42-yard field goal, to bring it back to a 1-point game with the score St. Louis 10, Arizona 9. So that was the score going into the locker rooms at halftime. Then in the third quarter, with about 6 minutes left in the third, Nick Foles threw his second touchdown pass of the game, this one to Stedman Bailey, an 18-yard touchdown. Zerline added the extra point, and it was now 17-9 as the Rams extended their lead to 8 over the Cardinals. Then with about a minute left in the third, Chandler Catanzaro hit his fourth field goal of the game, a 38-yard field goal, and it was now a 5-point game with the score St. Louis 17, Arizona 12, as all their points at this point had came off field goals, and Catanzaro would end up adding a fifth field goal with about 12 minutes left to play in the fourth quarter, a 29-yard field goal. That made it a 2-point game with the score St. Louis 17, Arizona 15. Then with a little over 8 minutes left, Nick Foles threw his third touchdown, this one his second one to Tavon Austin, a 12-yard touchdown. Zerline added the extra point, and it was 24-15 as the Rams extended their lead to 9 points. Arizona would respond with a touchdown, their first touchdown of the game. This one a 23-yard pass from Carson Palmer to the rookie David Johnson from Northern Iowa. Catanzaro added the extra point, and it was back to a 2-point game with the score St. Louis 24, Arizona 22. So now the Rams would get the ball, and they would go 3 and out, and they would punt it to Arizona. So Arizona now had the ball down by 2 points, and they had it on their own 37-yard line with a little less than 3 minutes left to play. And so they brought the ball to the 2-minute warning, the game to the 2-minute warning. They brought the ball into St. Louis territory, but on 4th and 2 from the 43, Carson Palmer threw his third incomplete pass in a row, and they turned the ball over on downs. So after turning the ball over on downs, now the Rams had the ball with less than 2 minutes left to play, but the Cardinals had all of their timeouts. And on first down from the St. Louis 44, they gave it to Todd Gurley, and he ran it 20 yards for a first down, forcing the Cardinals to use their first timeout. So then the Rams gave it back to Gurley. He lost 4 yards, but the Cardinals had to burn their second timeout. So now the Rams gave it back to Gurley again. He only picked up 2 yards, but now the Arizona Cardinals had to burn their final timeout with about a minute 17 left to play in this game. So now it's 3rd and 12 from the Arizona 38, up by 2 points, and they handed it off to Todd Gurley, and he ran it 30 yards. They couldn't stop him. He got it all the way down to the 8-yard line, and with no timeouts left, for the Cardinals to stop the clock, and less than a half a minute on the clock, the Rams lined up in the victory formation. Nick Foles took a knee, and this game came to a close as the Rams hold on to win this one by 2 points on the road with the final score 24-22, St. Louis over Arizona, as the Rams hand the Cardinals their first loss of 2015, their first loss on the season and their first loss at home. And the Rams, as I said, 2-2, the Cardinals 3-1. So quite a performance by the Rams. Of course, that was spurred on by a huge performance on the ground by Todd Gurley, especially on that final drive as he came up huge. He had 48 yards on that final possession for the Rams to seal the deal, including a 20-yard run and a 30-yard run that really just put the exclamation point and the final nail in the coffin there. And a huge performance by the Rams defense as well. Really a defensive battle on both sides. Two of the best defenses in the NFL with the Rams and the Cardinals. And there's some good defenses in the league this year for sure. But in this game, Carson Palmer, 29 of 46, 352 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Nick Foles, 16 for 24, 171 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Todd Gurley, 19 carries for 146 yards. And he also had 2 receptions for 15 yards, which gave him 161 total yards in this game. Charles Johnson had 16 carries for 83 yards. He also had 3 receptions for 11 yards, which gave him 94 total yards in the game. Tavon Austin, 6 receptions for 96 yards, including 2 touchdowns. He also had 2 carries for 20 yards, which gave him a total of 116 yards in this game. Larry Fitzgerald had 7 receptions for 99 yards for the Cards. John Brown, 7 receptions for 75 yards. And the rookie David Johnson, 4 receptions for 63 yards and a touchdown. He also had 3 carries for 18 yards as well. Let me look at the kickers. Catanzaro, 5 for 5 for the field goals. He had 1 extra point. It came in that order as well. He had kicked the 5 field goals before the Guards even scored a touchdown in this game. And Zerline, 1 for 1 on the field goals, 3 for 3 on the extra points. And on defense, Alec Ogletree, 9 tackles in this game for the Rams. For the Cards, Kalis Campbell, 10 tackles and a half a sack. The Honey Badger had a forced fumble, and Golden had a half a sack for the Cards. And for the Rams, McDonald had a sack, Joyner had a sack, Laurinaitis had a sack, Janoris Jenkins had an interception. Laurinaitis also forced the fumble. McLeod forced the fumble as well, and Long had a sack as well. If we look at the first downs, the Rams had 13 first downs. The Cardinals, 26. They had twice as many first downs. On third downs, the Rams, 5 for 13, just 38% conversion rate. The Cardinals, just 2 for 11, only 18% on third downs. They also went for it twice on fourth down. They were 1 for 2. We'll look at total net yards, 447 for the Cardinals, 328 for the Rams. Net rushing yards, 164 for the Rams, 113 for the Cardinals. Net passing yards, 334 for the Cardinals. Palmer was sacked 4 times for an 18-yard total loss overall. 164 net passing yards for St. Louis. Foles was sacked once for a 7-yard loss. We look at the penalties. 7 penalties against the Rams for 66 yards, 3 for the Cardinals for a loss of 20 yards penalized. And in the red zone, the Rams 3 for 5, 60% in the red zone, just 1 for 5 in the red zone for Arizona. And that was really the big difference in this game, is they were not able to turn those red zone trips into touchdowns, as time and time again they had to settle for field goals in this game. And they ended up losing their first game of the year, and they lost it by just 2 points. And if they could have converted just one more red zone trip turns into a touchdown and they win this game. They had the ball for 33 minutes and 13 seconds versus 26 minutes and 47 seconds for the Rams. So it really came down to just stellar red zone defense by the Rams in this game and a huge effort by Todd Gurley and that offensive line of St. Louis as they kept the Cardinals away from Nick Foles. Even though he didn't have a lot of yards, he had the 3 touchdowns. Of course, I said, Gurley with the 146 yards on the ground, is they were able to get things going on the ground, and that was something that the Rams had really been missing, as that was one of the biggest weaknesses on the Rams, was their lack of a running game. With this performance by Todd Gurley, it'll be interesting to see what St. Louis can put together moving forward. They've even up their record now at 2-2, so anything can happen. It's like a brand new season really in St. Louis now, as they've at 500. It's as if you're starting again at 0-0, and with Arizona just one game ahead of them at 3-1, the Rams are actually in a pretty good position moving forward. And they got a really solid effort out of their defense. They were just all over Carson Palmer, even though he did have a lot of yards, but they kept him out of the end zone. He only had the 1 touchdown, and they did force that interception. So quite the performance by the Rams on defense, and by Todd Gurley, really a breakout performance for the rookie as he finally gets on the field and finally gets to contribute. And, he's coming off of that injury, but I'll tell you, he looked just amazing in this game, especially in the fourth quarter, and especially on that final possession and his final carry of the game. That 30-yard run was quite the run. He also had a 52-yard run as well that had set up a touchdown earlier on. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you had a good day and had a great weekend and enjoyed all the sports.